Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Geoff Mosher with us this week, or today, I should say. I want to tell you about my friends at American Airlines. You know that you can travel on American Airlines from Atlantic City International Airport. American Airlines and ACY are your gateway to the world, and ACY is now your one-stop ticket to over 90 domestic and international destinations. You can go see your favorite team's away games now and leave right from ACY. That's right. You can see the Birds on the road and fly from ACY. Save time and money. Avoid the fees and hassle of parking at the big city airport when you start your next vacation on American Airlines from ACY. Excitement is just one stop away on American Airlines from ACY. Book today at AA.com. All right, Geoff Mosher is in the house. The Inside the Birds podcast, the Inside the Birds pre- and post-game show was very entertaining. Good stuff from Trey Thomas, Jeff, and Adam, and he joins us now as we kind of, turn our attention to the Washington Commanders. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
All is good, bud. By the way, injury report just came out for Wednesday, and it's pretty good. Watkins with an illness did not participate. Limited is Avonte Maddox and Hassan Reddick. So the Eagles have been pretty healthy so far through a couple games. We'll just get that out of the way. But I want to kind of get your thoughts on some of the tape review I know you guys did over at Inside the Birds, and just kind of give us some insight on what what you guys are hearing about the way John Gannon kind of, maybe let his defense play a little bit freer, let them kind of do some more things. Was that the case? Or, what did you see on tape from John Gannon's defense?
Yeah, I think that I don't know if it's about letting them play freer, although he's kind of discussed allowing them to get him out of a bad play in the middle of a call. But I definitely think it's about trust, something you can see, something we've been told, that Jonathan Gannon has more trust in the personnel that he has to do things differently than he did last year. I mean, we must have said countless times last year that you can blame Jonathan Gannon all you want, but when a guy is not confident in certain players at positions executing, then he's going to call his defenses as such. And by the way, if that wasn't pretty obvious with Ed Donatel and how he felt about his cornerbacks, both Patrick Peterson and Cam Dantzler, neither of them who run very well. It almost seemed like he was playing Jonathan Gannon's 2021 defense against the Eagles on Monday night.
Yeah.
But what you saw from the Eagles was more blitzes than normal. Again, he's not Todd Bowles. He ain't waking up out of bed, coming up with the craziest, number of blitzes that you're going to see. But he is going to pressure quarterbacks. He's going to pick the right times that he feels to pressure the quarterbacks. And it's not just going to be a five-man rush where you're blitzing an extra guy. He's coming from some directions. He did throw a zero blitz in there in the red zone, which is sort of out of the Jim Johnson playbook. So that's good to see. But I think secondarily to that, but maybe even more important, Mike, is the fact that you saw his cornerbacks challenge wide receivers at the line of scrimmage, playing up on them to redirect them, to fight them when the ball comes their way, as opposed to playing very far off and allowing the quarterback to play pitch and catch with his receiver that we saw all too often last year, because he just did not have the trust and faith that Steven Nelson could do that, or that Anthony Harris could, handle his corners underneath him playing press and then still be able to get there in time.
Yeah, Jeff, one of the things, the situational blitzing, I think that's something that we didn't really see that much last year. It's okay, 24/7, they're in the red zone. If they score, they make the game a little bit more interesting. And he sent a couple blitz, almost, I think it was on back-to-back plays down in the red zone there. That's not something we really saw, but you wonder if that is, much like a player, evolution of a play caller, feeling more comfortable with my personnel or feeling that I have better personnel. What is your feeling on why he felt more confident to dial up those situational blitzes?
I believe the construct of his defense, while there's some give and take there, it's much smaller. We talked about that in run defense against the Lions, but having a guy like I think he was always okay with Darius Slay being able to challenge a receiver, and now you've got James Bradbury instead of Steve Nelson. But there will be times where those guys try to get a jam and miss, get beaten, don't do the job on a deep ball. Now, though, you have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Marcus Epps who can try to get over in time as a deep safety if those guys are beat in man press, right? As opposed to hoping that Anthony Harris can kind of come from that middle to get back deep and break up a pass. You'd obviously rather have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson doing that than Anthony Harris. Much like if you wanted to be a really tough run stuffing defense, you'd probably rather have Anthony Harris as your safety than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So there's a give and take. But since we're talking about pass defense and blitzing, that personnel structure allows him to do this more. Now, there's a difference, right, between want and need when you're a coordinator. I think Jonathan Gannon would like to want to be able to blitz selectively. I don't think he wants the need to blitz to generate pressure. But I think you can fairly say so far that with what we've seen from the Eagles' four-man rush, he needs right now to blitz to create pressure.
Yep.
What he would like to do is get to a point where he's showing blitzing, right, to confuse the quarterback, and then dropping those guys at the last minute and relying on a four-man rush. But that hasn't been proven to be something the Eagles can say they do well yet.
How much of confidence and trusting your corners allows you to dial up more?
Oh, I mean, a ton. I mean, that's like I said, the difference between Steven Nelson playing press man and Darius Slay or James Bradbury is enormous. And again, on the back end, you need to make sure your safeties can turn their hips and run when the receiver does get past the press, and to be able to have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson do that as opposed to Anthony Harris makes all of that happen.
All right, Geoff Mosher, Football at 4. I know Adam had mentioned that that somebody, I guess a league source had mentioned to him that they're going to be more aggressive because they have better talent. And just again, kind of saying, hey, but with that, I want to ask you, they have better talent. They did send more pressure. Gannon had a good game. Do you like the way they're using Hassan Reddick, or is that something that is still kind of evolving?
It's evolving. I don't want to say I don't like it yet because I'm sort of looking for the method to the madness. I'm sure there is one. I mean, look, there's times where you're in a 5-2 front and you don't want to rush 5, or you're thinking they're running and they check into a pass, and you don't want to rush 5. You want to have somebody be able to drop into that zone so that someone can carry the running back up the wheel route or patrol the flats there. So, and it's at times it's going to be Hassan Reddick, and maybe that's I don't know exactly. I've tried to watch and see if maybe the play call was changed. I think it was when Kirk Cousins identified Hassan Reddick on the field in an area where they could get him in coverage in a man defense, right? And then you saw the tight end, who I've never even heard of, Johnny Munt, I think was his name, put a move on him. Johnny Munt must have been the happiest guy in the world to see Hassan Reddick. He must have thought I might actually get the ball thrown to me simply because I know that Hassan Reddick is lined up next to me. And he put sort of the simplest outside-in moves on Hassan Reddick, and he got the ball. So I know that frustrates people. And I think when they see that, you get the feeling that it's happening more than it really does. He must have dropped into coverage maybe 2 or 3 times. You're going to have to live with that at times. But for the most part, he's rushing the passer. But I didn't see him do an excellent job against Christian Darrisaw as far as getting past Darrisaw, who's a good left tackle now. He's a second-year guy for a first-round pick. Missed a lot of time last year with the groin injury. So he's a good left tackle. But we've yet to see Hassan Reddick kind of give you that flash around the edge and, bam, hit the quarterback when he's not expecting it. But we are also seeing Jonathan trying to move him around a little bit, which is what you should do. I just think you have to move him around as a pass rusher, though, not necessarily as trying to fake out whether he's in coverage or blitzing. He lined up as a coverage linebacker a couple of times. I think a couple of times then he would rush and then somebody else would drop back in a zone blitz.
Now, you just said it. They face good tackles in week 1. They face good tackles in week 2. Is it matchup based? Is it, okay, now we got a team that we think the tackles are a little weaker. Do we trust that John Gannon will based on the matchups, dial up his blitzes? Because Minnesota's weak up the middle. TJ Edwards got a couple right up the middle, calls. So now if you're a little weaker on the end, do we think that maybe shifts, that Reddick gets more of those calls?
I would argue that you don't even need to blitz per se to get Hassan Reddick isolated one-on-one with a lineman. I mean, you can line them up over left tackle and do that, but I don't think that's a strength either. I think, there are things you can do with a four-man front. You can overload three guys on one side and then run some games as far as twists and stunts to get Reddick looping inside against a slower guard who could not possibly keep up with his speed. And then, someone like Hargrave then looping on the outside or Cox looping on the outside just to create some confusion for an offensive line. Obviously, Chase Roulier, the center for Washington, is out. And so they're going to have a new center, and that's going to impact communication for them, plus put a backup at center. So it seems to me like it's a good time to, you can still blitz, but sort of attack the A gaps with line games and try to get the Washington offensive line confused. And if Hassan Reddick is a guy who can come through all the way from over left tackle through the A gap on a stunt, that to me sounds like a winning formula against this line.
Yeah, I brought up T.J. Edwards, by the way. I want to get your thoughts on how he's fitting into this defense through 2 weeks and how they're using him. Because before, I don't think people were all that excited about T.J. Edwards. He was an undrafted guy. And how is his evolution as a piece of this defense and how important he is to it?
Yeah, so when I'm wrong about somebody, it's a great thing because when I'm wrong about someone actually not being the player that he is, it's a great thing because it means he's become a much better player. When the Eagles drafted Nakobe Dean after they had signed Kazir White, I said that TJ Edwards is going to be a really nice third line, a middle linebacker in base when they're in goal line or 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. And not only is he more than that, he's their best linebacker right now. He is their and look, Kazir White's playing well. But TJ Edwards is just their best linebacker. He's downhill against the run still, covers well. You saw him breaking up passes. You saw him blitzing against Washington and trucking Dalvin Cook in pass protection. I made the analogy. He's sort of like a Ranger Suarez like pitcher who's the physical testing, the attributes aren't there, but Suarez can throw 94 and it'll look like 96 or 7 because he has such a devastating changeup that it keeps the batters, off kilter. And TJ Edwards is a guy who's not going to run a fast 40. He's not going to, make you think he can run with cover tight ends. He's not going to make you think he can do 1,000 different things, but he's just a great football player. And his football intelligence, his overall intelligence, his mental acuity, his understanding of zone drops, where he needs to be, everything else he's so good at that it manifests into better play speed. And right now I don't think it's even an argument that he's their best linebacker.
Right. That's what gets to the point where if he got hurt or how much of a drop off would there be? How important has he become?
That all just depends on how ready Nakobe Dean would be. If Nakobe Dean steps in and is a pretty good linebacker and Kazir White's still playing good, then you're good. I mean, you miss him, but it's still good.
It's amazing, and through 2 games, we really haven't, you're right, talked a lot about the linebackers being a problem, right? We haven't heard much like, Kaplan, the linebackers. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kaplan said on the pod like a week or 2 ago, he said, you know what? For the first time in a long, long time, the linebackers are not going to embarrass the Eagles defense. And he hit it on the head. They have not. They've been a strong point of the Eagles defense. Listen, we're 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
And there were some week 1 struggles getting off blocks that I still think the D-line didn't help out the linebackers, but nonetheless, that was an A+ performance from TJ for another week, and Kazir White has played really well too.
Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds, over at InsideTheBirds.com. You asked the question in print, by the way, who can stop the offense? I'll ask you, what is the identity of this offense in your mind through 2 games?
Adaptability, flexibility. I think it really all starts up front. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, his development has been crucial, but they've seen 2 different styles of defense, right? They saw a Lions team that just attacked and attacked and attacked. And how did the Eagles respond to that? Well, they did get a lot of running out of Jalen Hurts to get out of some bad plays, but they also attacked with the RPO. They were able to run with Jalen when they wanted to. They were able to run with their running backs when they wanted to. And, of course, they were able to hit A.J. Brown 10 times in that game for a lot of yards because there was a lot of single coverage. So it almost felt like Ed Donatel watched that tape and said, there's no way I'm leaving my corners who aren't even as good as Detroit's corners are okay. They're not great, but I got struggling corners. There's no way I'm leaving them one-on-one with A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. I'm playing coverage all day long. But you know what? That just plays into what the Eagles really do well. If you're going to back everybody up and only rush 4, you're not getting to the quarterback because the Eagles have too good of an offensive line that a 4-man rush is just not going to do it. And I'll give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit because even with a 4-man rush at him, you see the offensive line. Sometimes they'll lose a little leverage, but they'll maintain their block. But you start to see that semicircle move back toward the quarterback a little bit. And the best ones can still buy the time and climb the pocket a little bit and make that laser throw across the middle. You saw Jalen Hurts stay in that pocket on some of those times where the pocket starts to pinch around him and make some really strong throws. Dallas Goedert dropped one. Dallas Goedert caught one right before the half in a deep zone. A.J. Brown caught one on the right side. Quez Watkins caught one on the right and the left side. One of the flag took it away. But those were really good examples of Jalen Hurts either staying in the pocket or moving a little bit out of the pocket, maybe flushing himself, but keeping his eyes downfield, keeping the feet set, and making a great throw. So you ask what the identity is, it really starts with what they do up front with the offensive line and that RPO game, and then it extends out from there. So I think what the Eagles have shown so far is if you try to come after them, they can burn you. If you just try to sit in coverage all day, they will eat you up with that offensive line, that running game, and eventually Jalen Hurts will have enough time to find his targets as well. Someone's got to find the in-between here.
Sounds like a dangerous offense.
Yeah, it sounds like it has been a dangerous offense. But
right.
I'm curious to see if Washington – go ahead.
Could they win a game if they had if they were down and they had to come back and throw? Are they equipped to do that now?
I think it remains to be seen. Let's say if they're down 21-7 and the defense says we're going to play umbrella coverage, then yeah, I think the Eagles can show you that they can move the chains very efficiently. They can run the ball and they can put the ball in the air and score on a time of possession drive, but it's not going to take that much time that they're going to be worried about it. So if it's like an early 21-7, yeah. Now, if they're down 21-7 in the fourth quarter, right, and they're just having a bad day offensively, can they orchestrate two quick drives like that where they have to throw the ball 70% of the time? That is probably the next challenge that awaits the Eagles to see if they can do that.
It's funny because it's almost like they the first week, they threw all the passes. They didn't spread the ball around last week. They spread the ball all over the place. What's the next wrinkle that you want to see?
Offensively?
Right.
Well,
you can say, listen.
I don't know if it's a wrinkle. Let's just see if consistently, like I remember in 2017, they start off 1-1, they lose that tough game in Kansas City, then they win on the field goal against the Giants, and they go out to San Diego. I think it was San Diego, or no, man, it was the first year of Chargers being in LA. They win that game, and then all of a sudden you start to see this sort of consistency week in and week out of Carson Wentz and the offense, the running offense especially, just marrying off each other, playing well off each other, complementing each other. And people tried all different sorts of things, but the Eagles were just elite offensively that year. I think that the wrinkle would be just showing that the Eagles can kind of maintain. I don't expect them to score 30 points a game or whatever they're doing, but they should be able to score 26 or more. And, and when there's a tough day where they don't have it, pull one out. That to me, I think they've proven that they can run the ball, throw the ball, and use the RPO to keep you off balance. So now it's just, can you maintain that without turning the ball over, having bad days? And, as the tape builds on you and defenses adjust, can you keep countering with your play calling?
All right. We got, you're not going to be on the rest of the week, so I'll kind of give you a opportunity to kind of early, but kind of in your mind, how you see this Eagles Commanders on the road, Carson Wentz, division game, all that mixed into the pot of stew here. What are you feeling early?
These division games are so hard, but I feel like this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think Carson's playing better than he was even last year, and last year people don't want to give him credit for it because of the way the year ended, but he actually had a pretty good year last year. Now everybody wants to say, well, he had this great running game, he didn't have to throw the ball that much. Well, now he is throwing the ball a whole lot, and he's among the leaders in passing yards and touchdowns. And yes, of course, he has a couple of interceptions. I think he has 3. One of them was a screen that Trevon Walker just jumped in front of. I don't know if that's on him as much, but he also has a bunch of touchdowns, and he's doing a nice job getting the ball to McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas, and Curtis Samuel. So this is a lot of weapons for the Eagles to handle, and the Eagles' offense is a lot of weapons for Washington to handle. And it befuddles me the last year and a half. Washington just hasn't been good defensively, and I don't know why. So I see a lot of points being scored, but the Eagles are in better shape right now. So I can see the Eagles winning a high-scoring game, something like 36-26 if that's what you were looking for a score. But we're early here, but that's what I'm thinking.
All right. That game right here on 97.3 ESPN, and, of course, Geoff Mosher, Football at 4. Tomorrow, Andrew is here. Adam's back on Friday, and we'll get more thoughts on this game as the Eagles travel to Washington to take on the Commanders. Geoff Mosher, take care, bud.
All right, Mike. Be good.
Don't forget the Inside the Birds pre- and post-game show on their YouTube channel. You can see that before and after every Eagles game. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live.